Tell me about yesterday. Tell me about Saturday, David. What do you think that the outcome was?
I think the outcome was really a great start, and what we witnessed on Saturday was really the birth of a revolution. This is just the beginning. Nobody should be thinking this is the end, especially the politicians that are out there that are supported by the gun lobby and the NRA. That was just an outpouring of support to show the materialization of what support we have online.
And do you have evidence, Lauren, that politicians are listening?
Definitely. Just seeing the stuff on Twitter that they've been talking about, Rubio posting his thoughts on what happened, I just think it's definitely working and we're getting politicians' attention.
You know, I want to talk to you about Senator Marco Rubio because my eyes were opened when I was there. You guys have sort of targeted him as somebody who you don't think is doing enough and who you sort of depict as being callous. But, you know, I had a chance to talk to Scott Beagle's mom. He, of course, is your geography teacher who was killed in the massacre. And she said that Marco Rubio, behind the scenes, has reached out to her, had all sorts of conversations with her, talked about how what they've done so far on Capitol Hill in terms of the Fix NICS Act, in terms of the Stop School Violence Act that's part of the omnibus. Yes, these are low-hanging fruit. Yes, you want more. But should you be giving credit for even these incremental steps, David?
I think it's important to realize that it's good that we're having these incremental steps, but just like we saw in Florida, where we rose the age to 21, you can still purchase a gun at the age of 18 if it's a private sale. And like with many of the laws that they're passing right now, where they tried kind of fixing the Dickey Amendment, they didn't give any more funding. What they did is they said, like, you officially can do research, but we just aren't going to fund it. And they're leaving a lot of loopholes in here and trying to seem like they are doing things, when in reality, these laws have more holes than Swiss cheese.
I understand, but I guess my point is that if you're trying to get everybody together, if you're trying to have solutions, do you think it is helpful when you say things like, Marco Rubio is putting, you know, for $1.05 or whatever your coupon said, that's how much he values students? I mean, do you think that's unnecessarily provocative?
No, I think it's not enough I don't think it's even provocative enough, because Marco Rubio is still supported by the NRA, which works to ensure not the safety of gun owners and the safety of Americans everywhere, but to ensure that they sell more guns. And at the end of the day, so long as he is being paid by the NRA, he's not going to work to fix anything that is going to be concrete change. He's going to make laws that get him reelected, but actually don't have any major effect.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a Marco Rubio spokesperson, but now that I've heard what he's doing behind the scenes, he is sponsoring all of these various bills, two of which were part of the omnibus, and so things are happening. And all I'm suggesting is that maybe your ire is misplaced, you know, since he is actually trying to work across the aisle.
Yeah, I think it's a great step that he's trying to work across the aisle, but I think so long as he's supported by the NRA, no matter what he does, there's always going to be loopholes in anything that he does, because we've seen again and again, we've passed gun legislation in this country, and at the end of the day, you can pass as many laws as you want, but if those laws are not very strong and they have so many loopholes that the NRA works so hard to ensure that they aren't going to be strong enough.
So, Lauren, one of our Fox News contributors is Rick Santorum. He's a former Pennsylvania senator. He had a suggestion instead of marching, for what he thinks that you kids should do. So listen to this.
How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve their problem, do something about maybe taking CPR classes or trying to deal with situations where there is a violent shooter that you can
How are they looking at other people?
I
would ask you, they took action.
Yeah, they took action to ask someone to pass a law. They didn't take action to say, how do I, as an individual, deal with this problem? How am I going to do something about stopping bullying within my own community? What am I going to do to actually help respond to a shooter? What am I going to do? Those are the kinds of things where you can take it internally and say, here's how I'm going to deal with this. Here's how I'm going to help the situation.
What's your response to that?
I just think it's completely absurd that he's even thinking about teaching us CPR when we're having gun violence all across America and even in our schools. The fact that he's saying CPR when my friends are dying on our floor and nothing's being done about it is just horrible. I think he's just using it as a distraction to get the attention away from guns.
And I have two things to say on that. I think it's important to realize that there are many programs out there that work to ensure, especially in communities that are heavily affected by gun violence. I saw last night on the news that there's a program in Chicago where they work to ensure that students are able to respond and administer whatever first aid they can, assuming the person's still alive. But at the end of the day, if you take a bullet from an AR-15 to the head, no amount of CPR is going to save you, because you're dead.
By the way, he's a CNN contributor. I knew him from Fox News, but he is a CNN contributor. Last, I want to ask about how you guys are going after the NRA. You know, I think the intro thought that we just played there, you said that the NRA is allowing the slaughter of kids. Look, again, I don't want to be an NRA spokesperson, but obviously they don't want the slaughter of children. NRA members have children themselves. People who work at the NRA have their own children. Do you think that you are polarizing in saying things like that? And maybe it would help to get the NRA on board with what some of your asks
I think
are.
if the NRA was on board, they would actually implement safety and they would actually give people grants to these schools and not just make it a few grants. If you look into it, their programs to actually ensure just school safety alone have not been enough. What they do, what the NRA does, from my perspective, they don't teach enough gun safety. They were a good organization, and many of the members of the NRA are safe, responsible people. I've said it again, I'll say it now again too. Most members of the NRA are safe, responsible gun owners that just want to protect their Second Amendment rights to own a weapon. What the problem is when the people at the top are paid by the gun industry to ensure that they scare American citizens and that they're able to sell more guns and scare more people as a result. They don't give people enough training to own these guns. And I want people to understand, we are not trying to take your guns. We understand that you have a right to the Second Amendment and to own a firearm. We just don't think that if you have a criminal history, a history of mental illness, or a history of domestic violence, that you should be able to get a weapon. I think that's something that we can all get behind. I think a lot of the time people just misconstrue us and manipulate us into seeming like we're trying to take your guns, and that's what the NRA has been doing too, where they're trying to scare people into buying more guns so that they can make more money and scare more people, and I think that's just plain wrong.
Well, and I completely agree with David. I think the main problem is that the people at the top of the NRA are not showing what most of the members of the NRA want, and that's to be a responsible gun owner. But their whole agenda is just selling more guns, and I think that's wrong, that they're not representing the people they're supposed to be representing.
Well, look, it sounds like you all are going to try to find some common ground. I know you have another event planned for April 20th, a school walkout. We will obviously be following you.
And
Lauren,
actually, we have town halls on April 7th that we're calling for right now in every congressional district. And if the congressman doesn't show up, if they can't reschedule and they just refuse to show up, invite their opponent. It's as simple as that. Go to townhallproject.org and create your event there.
There you go. David Hogg, Lauren Hogg, thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.